Next guest is Jim VandeHei. He's the co-founder of two media companies, first Politico and now Axios, where he is the CEO. He has written a new book. It's out this week, and it's titled Just the Good Stuff. And we're going to talk about the book. There's about a whole number of lessons about life that you've learned that you're trying to pass on. I want to ask you about some of those things, but I want to ask you a little bit about D.C. for a second, some of the things you've been writing about in Axios. In particular, this Time magazine interview that Trump just gave, you said is one of the most important interviews you think that's out there that we can take something away from. It is long.
It's long.
That interview. And I'm curious, what was the nugget or the sentence or two or three that you said to yourself, that is something we're supposed to focus on?
Well, one, we have two candidates who are basically operating like they're in the witness protection program in terms of like getting really tough scrutiny around like what are you going to actually do when you govern. And for Trump, this was like a really detailed conversation where he said the quiet part out loud. I think what people are not paying attention to in the noise is he has like very substantive, substantial plans for governance. And it's a lot different than what we're used to. It's different than his first term. We've done a lot of reporting on it. The Times has done a lot of reporting on it. But it's the first time he's talked about, hey, listen, I'm going to use the military. I'm going to use the National Guard to quell protest or to deport people who are here illegally. I'm going to potentially get rid of people at the Justice Department if they don't agree with me. Very significantly, we've known from his staff and from on the outside that they want to get rid of potentially tens of thousands of civil servants who they feel just weren't loyal enough to him last time. On the outside, you have the Heritage Foundation and others putting together a lot of work to make sure that that functions that way. And if you look back at that first term, he was really hamstrung by the fact that a lot of people weren't loyal to him and didn't actually want to carry out his wishes. So if he has a government that will carry out his wishes, he's going to be able to do a hell of a lot more than he did in his first term. You might like that, you might loathe that, but you should at least be aware of it.
He was hamstrung by a lot of things in his first term. I mean, it was Crossfire Hurricane. That was before he even won. They had a plan to disrupt, and I don't know, just there were obstacles from day one for everything.
Including from him, right? Like he appointed a lot of people.
That's the new information.
And that's what he wants to do. And in that interview, he's pretty candid. Even though he's hard when he interviews because he's all over the place, but he's pretty candid about these things that they really would stretch norms, traditions, and kind of accepted law. And again, a lot of Republicans like that. That's great, but now it's at least detailed.
What do you think the impact will be on business leaders that you talk to about those type of things?
I think there's a real divide, as you've seen on your own show. I think on the one hand, people feel like, listen, I'm probably going to get lower taxation, maybe better regulation, but the trade-off is there's probably a lot more volatility and unpredictability. I don't think business is that thrilled with what they've seen from Biden. I don't think they like the amount of spending that we've seen, the threats to raise the capital gains rate. So I think there's a real divide. There's a reason that President Biden's sending Treasury Secretary Yellen out to Arizona today for the Treasury Secretary to warn about the attacks on democracy, because they feel like that, not the issues, is what would get him reelected. Biden, I'm talking about. They feel like for whatever reason, people don't like what he's selling in terms of the policies that he's had, and they really want to make it kind of, hey, here's some stability versus like a real attack on democracy.
Policies that nobody likes?
Pardon?
Instead of just altering the policies that nobody likes, let's just talk about something else.
Doubling down on those.
Yeah, for what I mean, again, if you just look at what he promised to do, he did a lot policy-wise. It just turns out the public doesn't like it, and you've seen it in the unfavorable ratings, which have been consistent and persistent since the day that he took office. So he has to figure out something that shakes up that
What
dynamic.
is it that you think, from all the reporting that Axios has done, that the public doesn't like? Is it the policies? Is it the age issue? Is it the inflation piece of the economy? What is it that when you say they don't like the policies?
Yeah.
What do you think what are you referring to specifically?
Yeah, I think you're probably, again, it's hard to know because we're talking about 330 million people, but I think it's a combination of people are very uncomfortable with his age, right? He looks old. He often sounds old, and then you look at polls where even Democrats are really concerned about it. So they hate this topic, but it is true. He is old, and he would be 86 at the end of his term. I think you couple that with inflation, and then some bit of nostalgia. Like people look back at Trump and they're like, I didn't like. He might have said crazy things, but I don't know. It seemed like my taxes were lower and I was making more money. Then in some cases that's right, some cases it's not. But when you look at poll after poll after poll that says people feel that there was more success in the economy under Trump than under Biden, you can see why the White House gets worried and says, okay, then we have to figure out a different juxtaposition. We have to say stability versus crazy. And that's kind of what they're trying to say over and over and over.
Right.
That's why you have the Treasury Secretary like wading into democracy politics. It's just not, you don't typically do that, and the White House is admitting you don't typically do that.
If the way your weekly budget is measuring up to what you make is still below where it was when he took office.
Yep.
And inflation comes down to 3% on top of the 20% or whatever number you want to use, depending on what you're talking about, and your wage gains have not kept pace with inflation, you feel strapped. You don't feel better off than you did 3 years ago.
And so take your thing. So where is Biden losing support? Put aside young people because they don't really vote. They're really worried about black men and Hispanic men, especially working class black men and Hispanic men. They've been moving to the Republican Party over the last 4 years, and that's who's getting hit hardest are people, working class people, by inflation. So then, therefore, you can extrapolate inflation probably is a bigger deal than even we realize.
I want to talk about this book because there's a whole bunch of things in here that I'm fascinated by, but I'm curious, and they're life lessons that you're trying to teach. One of them, though, is this. You say, study thyself, be clear-eyed about your gifts and flaws.
Yep.
It's the only path to betterment.
Yep.
How many people do you know who are not that introspective, who have no idea what their gifts and their flaws really are? And to the extent that you can tell those people how to figure it out, what do you tell them?
I mean, most don't. I mean, that big part of it. So the book was written by, started a couple of media companies, Politico and Axios, and I was a reporter, as you know, before that. So I took a lot of notes. And like one of the things in just realizing who has success and not is that one question. Like, are you doing any introspection? What are you good at? What aren't you good at? How do you spend your day? What type of people do you surround yourself with? What do you do when you work with a jerk? Do you let them in your life? Do you keep them in your life? How do you deal with someone when you have to fire them? There's a way to do it with grace. There's a way to do it and be a real jerk. And a lot of this stuff, I make fun of myself a lot in the book because I had to learn to be a CEO. And in learning to be a CEO, in the beginning, hiring, firing, strategic decisions, communicating, culture, I screwed it all up. But then I do a lot of introspection, and I'm like, okay, I screwed that up. How do I fix it? And in fixing it, I looked at other people who had success. So in many ways, the book is me being a vessel in terms of like, here, listen, if you're a manager and you want to be a better manager, here's a bunch of tricks and tips that are very actionable. If you're a CEO and you want to deal with the younger generation, here's some things that will help you. And if you're a college graduate and you're trying to figure out how do you get ahead and not be a jerk, I think there's a lot in the book that would be really helpful.